I'm Donato Bonifazzi, but you will see all of my activities during my presentation. So I will start. Today's presentation will focus on the benefits of the involvement of pediatric patients in clinical research, underlining what are the main challenges in pediatric clinical research and how patient engagement can benefit the drug development process. I will explain how patient-centric practices can be implemented in pediatric clinical trials, and finally provide some practical cases from pediatric studies. The lack of pediatric medicines, including innovative and advanced ones, is a long-lasting and well-known problem at European and international level. The need to include children in drug development programs has been largely recognized over the past few decades, and stringent legal and regulatory frameworks have been established all over the world with significant but insufficient results. Adult instruments are often inappropriate, and children have been poorly served by research, even though they have specific emotional and physical needs that must be met. In addition, the need for children to have equitable access to medicines will increase with the growth in advanced technologies and personalized medicine. Many products derived by the advancement in the life sciences have been discovered and developed with adult patients in mind. Therefore, children remain deprived of many therapeutics because of the challenges faced to appropriately study and tailor medicinal and other products for children. Pediatric clinical trials present many differences from clinical trials enrolling adults, and they need to take into account some pediatric peculiarities, such as organ maturation, different physiology and metabolism, as well as samples variability based on the different age range. Moreover, it is possible to face a trial, enroll and retain a sufficient number of participants. These factors can make such trials prohibitively expensive. In addition, ethical issues should be faced and considered in trial design and execution. All these issues could make it difficult to maintain compliance and data reliability. All international texts and guidelines require that an appropriate risk-benefit ratio should be the basis of the clinical trial, especially for studies including children. So it is therefore crucial to involve patients in the clinical trials to invert this paradigm. Patient engagement in pediatric clinical trials has in recent years emerged as an increasingly important aspect of successful clinical trials. Across all involved groups, such as, of course, sponsors, but also academics, regulators, and patients, the primary goal of clinical trials is to move rapidly and answer research questions and deliver safe, effective treatments to patients. In this sense, patient engagement is central to accomplishing this goal. And also, patient engagement may indeed be defined as an effort to extend the benefits of patient insight and experiences in both the research and development process, or as we say, from bench to bedside, through collaborative relationships in order to conduct more efficient and patient-centered, high-quality research. But how can children be engaged in clinical research? Since the United Nations Convention in 1989, it is widely accepted that children have a right to express their views and to be heard in all matters that affect their lives. We know that hearing children's voices and preferences can help them to feel acknowledged as human beings and treated with respect. Research indicates that involving children and adolescents in decision-making makes them feel happier, more prepared, less anxious, improves knowledge, reduces decisional conflict, and enhances treatment outcomes. So the Convention on the Rights of the Child introduces for the first time in an international human rights treaty the concept of the evolving capacities of the child. And the Article 5 of the Convention states that direction and guidance provided by parents or others with responsibility for the child must take account of the capacities of the child to exercise rights on his or her own behalf. The concept of evolving capacities is central to the balance embodied in the Convention between recognizing children as active agents in their own lives, entitled to be listened to, respected, and granted increasing autonomy in the exercise of rights, while also being entitled to protection in accordance with their relative immaturity and youth. Children are thus rights holders with a progressively evolving ability to make their own decisions. However, on matters concerning their health and general well-being, there is uncertainty as to how the increased recognition of their decision-making capacity should be addressed. Finding the right balance between autonomy and protection is a challenge when considering that children's rights are situated within a large set of parental rights responsibilities that also focus on their best interests. So the young patient engagement early on in the research process and educating them about the importance of participating in clinical research is not only a children's right, but it is a fundamental strategy in reducing the patient's retention and fostering treatment's compliance, in increasing patients' retentions and fostering treatment's compliance. The promotion of the collaboration between the different actors of the research process, even when this process involves children, should be included in the best practices of the pediatric research in order to enhance quality and relevance of the research itself. Yes, challenges in the engagement of children. There are several, and however, some challenges have to be faced for the engagement of children, since it requires appropriate means and language to be adapted to key factors influencing children comprehension, such as age, physical condition, but of course disease condition, previous knowledge, and mental state. The child's autonomy can be conceptualized as the child's right to an open future, meaning a right to have one's future options kept open until one can make one's own decisions. So without limiting their chance to decide later. Overall, patients and families need to be considered as co-managers of their condition and participate in decisions related to their healthcare according to their capacity. Children need to be informed according to their age and maturity in order to be able to provide their assent or express their refusal to be included in or to withdraw from a trial. Moreover, patients, individually and collectively, have to play a role in improving healthcare services for all patients by contributing with their specific experiences as learning and educational tools to inform and redesign of services. However, the involvement must be planned, appropriately resourced, carried out, and evaluated as to its outcomes, impact, and the process itself, according to the values and purposes of all participants. Due to the pediatric specific developmental characteristics, specifically tailored methods should be applied to the training and empowerment process of pediatric patients. In particular, it is advisable to educate and empower them in the specific topic of the project for which their help is requested. For example, to improve the language, content, and format of the asset document. Moreover, the use of focus groups, questionnaires, or surveys, personal interviews also could be a useful strategy to collect feedback aiming to improve the trial and also wider projects. Pediatric clinical trials could take benefit from user-friendly, intuitive, and easy-to-engage interactions with the patients, providing a positive impact on the whole clinical trial process. However, it is necessary to underline that the patient experience in a trial works best when it is personalized, with patients given access to their compliance and achievement levels. The patient active participation can be furthered using devices useful in case of notifications to take a pill or record a reaction to a medicine, as well as patient advocacy groups that can make them feel part of a community. It is to be highlighted that everything should be always conducted in compliance with patients' fundamental rights, and in particular avoiding that discriminatory measures are introduced against patients in the case of imperfect compliance. Overall, patient-centered research aims first to comply with children's rights and guarantee the well-being of children. Patient-centric trials are trials designed specifically around patient needs, including patient-reported or patient-relevant outcomes measures, or are co-designed with patients. Patient-centric trials are designed to improve the relevance of trials to patients and the convenience of participation, with the aim of encouraging patients to take part in trials. Here are some data and clinical trials citing patient-centric designs in PubMed have risen since 2008, with a sharp increase since 2011, and 38% of patient-centric trials were conducted in the US, 34% in the European Union, 9% in Japan, 5% in China. In the 5 following years, so between 2012 and 2017. And the patient-centric trials were most common in oncology in the US, Europe, China, and Japan, whereas neurology was the leading therapy area for patient-centric trials elsewhere. Also, some other data. A recent study showed that some relevant data on the possible benefits of patient engagement in clinical process. The study analyzed about 24,000 clinical trials, of which more than 1,000 were patient-centric trials, so more than 4%. The analysis showed that drugs developed using patient-centric designs were more likely to be launched than drugs developed without such designs. So the first one were likely to be launched in the 87% of cases, while the others, not patient-centric, only 68%. And moreover, it was underlined that patient-centric trials took an average of 4 months to recruit 100 participants, significantly less than the average of 7 months with not patient-centric trials. The nature of patient-centric trials means that they are probably more effective and engaging patients. The impact at the level of the selected therapy area is even more profound. Patient-centric trials took around half as much time to recruit 100 participants in neurology and oncology trials, and in rare diseases trials, they took only a fifth of the time taken by non-patient-centric trials. So we see that where patients are less in numbers, more important is to center on themselves, the study trial and performing. Therefore, patient-centric trials recruit twice as many participants. This is on average 533 compared to non-innovative trials, 271, recruiting twice as many participants in almost half the time. So they are really very, very interesting data, and therefore there is a really important, it is to advocate that patient involvement should occur throughout the research and development process, from setting research priorities, involvement in research design and planning, research conduct through the dissemination and communicating research findings. So not just in one moment, but all over the study life. So how can patient-centered practices be implemented? So I would like to start thinking in particular to some specific aspects that have to be considered to implement the normal clinical practice, such as the literacy and health literacy of the patients, the necessity to simplify the informed consent form, patient insights and transportation, and the use of virtual trials if possible, of course. So we have to start from ethical considerations, because as said, children need to be informed according to their age and maturity. Issues like the necessity to have adequate and more suitable consent forms, as well as the need to actively involve children in the decision-making process related to a clinical trial are clearly underlined also in the updating guideline you can see on the screen, ethical considerations for clinical trials on medicinal products conducted with minors, prepared by the European Commission and the Paediatric Committee within the European Regulation 536 in 2014. The document was released to provide recommendations on various ethical aspects of clinical trials performed in minors from birth up to legal age of competence to provide informed consent. So the guidelines introduce the definition of agreement as a document used in accordance with the term assent, where it is not a legal requirement and means the expression of the minor's will to participate in a clinical trial. This document supports a systematic request for agreement and recommends that the investigator obtains agreement from the child in addition to the informed consent of the parents' legally designated representative, even when this agreement is not mandatory by law. Dissent, however, meaning the expression of the minor will not to participate, should be respected, in line with Article 32 in the Clinical Trials Regulation, on condition that the minor is capable of forming an opinion and assessing the information given. The ethical considerations guidelines underlines that the evaluation to what extent a child is able to provide agreement should not solely be based on chronological age, but should also depend on other factors such as developmental stage, intellectual capacities, especially in children with special needs and or learning difficulties, life, disease experience, and so on. So now we can have a look to some practical examples in pediatric clinical trials, mainly one example from the DEEP study, which I managed a few years ago, some useful tools produced by the TEDI, European Network of Excellence for Pediatric Research, the experience of the Young Patients Advisory Group, and also their network at European level and at worldwide level, and finally, specific activity for pediatric patients engagement that will be performed in the following 3 years by the same TEDI network within the European Joint Programme for Rare Diseases. So, first of all, the DEEP case study. For the young participants of the DEEP project, aimed to develop a new formulation of deferipron for the treatment of iron overload in pediatric patients affected by congenital anemias, 3 different booklets explaining clinical trials, aims, and procedures, and what they are going to experience, and 2 different assessment forms were prepared, tailored to different age ranges. All this informative material is available was available, but is still in 6 different languages according to the multinational clinical trial involving 23 centers all over Europe and North Africa. The second experience is the one of the TEDdy network, which developed 2 animated videos, both to show general information on clinical trials, but thanks to the use of different languages and communication tools, they address different target population. So besides developing age-appropriate informative material to duly informed children, their families, TEDdy also created videos tailored for kids between 4 and 7 years, and there are the pictures on the bottom of the diapo, aimed to explain some main concepts on drugs and their use. This was done, all of these activities were done within FP6 and FP7 funded European projects. There are links shown on the slide, but I can also, upon request, provide the link to these materials that are still available on the websites. Okay, one of the most effective strategies to promote interaction with the patients during a clinical trial is the use of virtual components as patient-facing technologies. The use of a well-designed mobile app can allow participants to quickly access instructions and then take appropriate actions. These tools can make easier the filling out of surveys about medical reactions and daily routines. In addition, this can help the work of clinicians, for example, in reminding the patients to complete the daily symptom diary through single tap on a notification. Simple steps like these would increase compliance without sacrificing data density or accuracy, while optimizing the time spent. Also, in this case, it is very important to respect the fundamental children's rights for the use of the applications. So we recommend in all trials involving children to prepare useful tools to inform and involve them appropriately. And this will benefit from trial compliance and study results. So, as I said, training is an important factor to facilitate the involvement of pediatric patients in the clinical trials, and to this aim, in the framework of the European Joint Programme on Rare Diseases, the TEDdy network will organize dedicated activities aimed to train expert patients with rare diseases. In particular, 3 days workshops in collaboration with Fondation San Juan de Deo, Eurordis, and the YPAGNet, that is the European Young Persons Advisory Group Network, will be organized during the next 3 years for groups of 15 patients with rare diseases, focusing on the areas indicated in the slide, so genetic rare disease characteristics and evolution, the role for pediatric patients and relevance of clinical and translational research, and the orphan medicinal products availability and access for pediatric patients. All these activities are also included in European and worldwide network, and that support the single group in engaging patients in clinical trials activities. But thanks also to the Young Persons Advisory Groups established worldwide. The Young Person Advisory Group is an organization composed of youths, both patients or not, actively participating as partners, advising researchers and their teams in a full range of activities in various research projects and initiatives. There are several YPAGs across the world, including the International ICANN Network. They collaborate all together across the world with the pediatric hospitals and the scientific communities to give voice to the children and their families about health medicine research, provide input and help the researchers to design the clinical study, contribute to improve the communication with the children and their families, suggest methods for the dissemination of the study's results. Okay. These were the positive outcomes of these collaborations that we expect involving WIPACs. And to conclude, just some few highlights on recommendations that are: increasing patient knowledge and understanding encourages them to become actively engaged in their own health, well-being, and healthcare choices, leading to improved care and fewer visits. In addition to improving care, patient engagement also has financial benefits, as it reduces no-shows, aids in increasing revenue, and maintains your patient base. By collaborating and engaging with patients in the decision-making process, healthcare providers can make better decisions regarding a patient's health, improving the patient-provider relationship and overall patient retention. Physicians are better able to treat patients in the most effective way possible, ultimately becoming more time and cost efficient. And finally, last recommendation, pediatric-centered studies imply to address children's peculiarities while ensuring the respect of fundamental children's rights had to be in accordance with fundamental children's rights. So thanks a lot for participating, for listening to my presentation, and if any question is there, I will be very happy to reply.